Hey y'all. So I made a little promise whenever I hit 10K that I would do a little video about my story. I've been nervous to do it, not gonna lie. I'm an open book, but I just didn't know how to go about it. So we're just gonna wing it and see what happens. But um, without giving too much information of myself out, um, I was born in Ohio. Uh, I didn't know my mom or my dad. I was adopted at a very young age, but um, I I had, I believe, three sisters, and I was the only birth male from that family. And my mom was heavily on drugs, very much a not so good-ish person. They chose drugs over me. They had a lot of issues with prostitution and selling themselves out. Meanwhile, my dad, not much was known about him at all. The only thing I kind of got the energy of and vibe of was that he was a pimp to my mom. And ooh, this is gonna get a little violent. I'm just gonna tell you the story blankly as it is. But one one day, my mom was brought into court and was like, "Hey, you have to start taking care of your child. We're gonna put your child in selective care with these people, um, which are my adoptive parents. So we'll get to that as well. But we'll put you in the property of these people, and you know, they'll be checking in on your son until you get your shit fixed." And they agreed to it and everything. There were multiple times where I was found in like the back of a car, it parked outside of random people's houses. When I was inside of people's houses with them doing crack and all sorts of drugs. I was very much a drug baby. My mom was under the influence when I was born. Um, but uh, One day, I don't really know what happened. There was like a whole police report that I used to have. I don't know where it went, but I had it somewhere, and I would read it a bunch of times just to figure it out. Like, I was very told my whole life story at the front. Like, everything of mine was very open to me in my face. Um, but In the police report, my mom was being beat by my dad. Me, along with my family members, like children, were flung around. Not children, my sisters were tossed around the house a lot. And my dad ended up stabbing my mom, like, I think it was 47 or 43 times in the chest. She passed out from blood loss. And then my dad ended up slitting his own throat. This is very dark. My apologies. But and passed out from blood loss as well. My mom woke up from blood loss and went to her neighbor's house, and then they called the cops and took her to the EMS, got her. She was also under some drugs at that time too when she got put in. But then my dad woke up when the cops got to the apartment and arrested him, and then we were all of us were sent to different people. I don't know if we had different caseworkers. I don't know if I was just separated from my sisters or what happened, but I was sent somewhere else. I don't know what happened to my other family members. I keep getting the suspicion that one of them's in California, and I don't know why. I just do. But as a child, I had contact with all their parents and stuff. I don't remember this though, because I was like 4 months old when all this happened. So at 4 months old, I was adopted and brought down to Kentucky, where I reside. And I had a lot of contact with my family, birth family. My birth mom, I have a few photos of me with her, but it's funny to me. It's not funny, it's not, but to me it's hilarious. But in all the photos that I see with my mom, I'm crying. Obvious reasons why. But on my birth certificate, it was said that I always looked at people differently. I always had a smile on my face. I was always busting with energy. I had this high vibration since I was a child. A lot of people hated that. I think I think that was the main reason of my father doing what he did, because I was just like, because I was the one that was given a lot more of attention than my sisters as well. Like, I was given a lot more like love. I was a very special child. I have done a lot of meditation on this, and I feel like there was a lot of culty issues with this whole thing. I feel like my mom was, something was not right with my mom. Her eyes were her eyes were completely black in all those photos, by the way. I have dark brown eyes, but hers were pitch black in all of the photos that I've seen. So there's obviously some cult activity. I probably was supposed to be a child sacrifice for that family so they could end some sort of curse. I'm not fully aware of all that, but I do talk to my spirit team about it occasionally just to figure stuff out. But when I was adopted, we moved down here, and I lived a decent, okay life as a child, as a baby, I should say. When I hit around 5 years old, I had my first near-death experience. A lot of shit happened to me when I was 5 years old, actually. Jesus, man. My whole life took a big turn when I hit 5. I'm not gonna lie. Around that age, 5 to 7, I'll cover the ages from like ages 5 to 7. In that age gap, I was kind of religious back then as a child. I would go to church. My adoptive mom, worked at a church in the baby center, and she would take care of babies all the time. She and her husband, my adoptive dad, they did a lot of adoption care, a lot, and that's the only reason why I met them. But no one adopted me, so they just took me in. That's just how it was. I don't know why. There probably was some sort of weird energy around me, but no one wanted to adopt me. And my parents, the adopted parents, they worked a lot with black kids and African American kids, so they knew how to take care of African American kids. They knew how to take care of their hair, how to their needs, and all that stuff. Well, at least my mom did. My dad wasn't so aware of it. But my mom knew that there were certain things that African American babies needed that would shift the course of their life a lot. If you know, you know. We are raised differently. African people and white people are raised differently. Bottom line, honey. Bottom line. But between the ages of 5 and 7, when I was at the church group, my mom was friends with the owner, and she loved me, and it was just like I always let do whatever I wanted. But I was very scared. I didn't want to get in trouble as a kid, because that was like a huge fear of mine, just getting in trouble. And I ended up getting raped a few times due to not wanting to get in trouble. I would get snacks from the snack bar that they had, and I was allowed to. There's this dude that was there, and like, if you can't take snacks in there, I'm telling you that you can. And if you do, I have to do what I have to do. He called it the Cyclops. I'm not gonna get into it. I've healed from the whole thing, but I was forced as a child to give fellatio and to do all sorts of shit to him, and vice versa. He would do stuff to me. I didn't, as a child, not knowing what was going on. I did tell people in the church, and nothing came about to help. I told my mom, and my mom told that kid's parents, and then my mom ended up getting excommunicated from that church. Something happened, a baby threw up on her, and she had a reaction that she'd never had before, where she started cussing. She never once did that. So I believe there was some spell work on her at that point, because she never would, she knows not to cuss around babies, but something about that one time, just like she ended up cussing a lot and got fired. Damn. Sorry, I just got a whole revelation on what was happening in my mom's side of field. So I'm gonna have to worry about that later. But after that, I kind of stopped going to that church. I was baptized in that church, and that was a whole thing as well. But um, but the baptism, I was baptized like twice. Damn. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was baptized in that church as a young child, and my life started going really shaky around that time. I had my first near-death experience around that age too. You know those little like plastic basketball goals that people would have? I had like a tiny one, and I was playing on it, and I was leaning back on it, just child shit. And I leaned back really far, and it didn't tip over because it had water in the base of it. And I was like, "Hey, Dad, watch this," because my dad was in the garage doing some sort of woodwork. I don't know what he was making. And he said, "Not now, I'm busy." And I leaned back, and when I did, you can I don't know. I'll have to like some other time. I'll probably show you all. I mean, I don't know. You can kind of see it though. That bump right there is like skull fragment that still has not been cleaned out. It's still very much there. But I fell, and right there I landed on a rock. Funnily enough, I have my little pyramid out here. It was as sharp as the point of this was. It was a very sharp rock. And I hit it like boom, full force. And I remember coming in and out a lot. I remember instantly just blacking out immediately. And then when I woke up, I was in the truck of my dad, and I opened my eyes and I looked at him, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, you're alive." And I was like, "Where am I?" And he said, "We're going to the hospital." And I blacked out again, and I heard him say, "Oh shit, no," and speed up. And at that time, to be honest, it was weird, but I was there as a baby, and I was sitting in the middle of like a council of people in whole white cloaks, and their face was just shining of light, and they were just sitting there looking at me. Their arms were like out in front of them like this, and they were just sitting there staring at me. And when I came awake again, I was in the hospital waiting room. And okay, when I was in the waiting room, I kind of looked around, and everyone was missing their face. I remember this very vividly. It was horrifying. But I remember no one having a face. It was just like blurred, like just skin mask all over it. And I blacked out again. I woke up, I think like 2 days later at my house. A few days had passed. I died full on, like passed away and came back. It was a whole weird experience, but I remember distinctly seeing at least 6 or 7 of those people standing up and like staring at me. I want to say people, but they are most likely, I mean, deities, just to be real. But I think I'm getting told it's the Light Council now. So thank you, Spirit. I've done a lot of meditation on my past life, like what happened to me as a child, so I can get to the bottom of all this, because there's more to it than I know, and I want to know all of it. But I ended up recovering. I went to school with the little band-aid over my head, and I had stitches in it and everything. And everyone was like looking at me very scared. Like people were scared of me because of that. Which, understandably so. What if you just got told that your classmate died and then came back up, brought back to life? But oddly enough, after that happened, a bunch of bad shit started happening to me. Not bad, but at the time it felt bad. In kindergarten, I was called the hard R by not only students, but by a teacher, by someone's parents, all within the school vicinity, mind you. I was blamed for a lot. I was told that people like me do things like that all the time, and I just didn't know what the fuck they meant. Um, and I have I still have it with me because it's a little reminder of mine that I have. But in elementary school, we had to write down on this paper like our whole life and everything. And one of the questions was, "What's one thing you would change about yourself?" And I wrote down I would change my color because I was very targeted for my race growing up from a young age. Um, Around something, the biggest thing was I was woken up to racism when I was in fourth grade. There was a teacher, not gonna name her, um, and we all had to put our heads down on the desk because some girl was locked in a boys' bathroom, and um, I never used the bathroom in fourth grade. I didn't use the school bathroom in fourth grade at all. I just didn't feel like I didn't like the bathroom vibe, or public bathroom vibes at that age. So um, we all had to put our heads down on the table, and we had a few Hispanic kids that went to our school too. I was the only black kid, but still brown skin, very tan. I was darker as a child. Let me talk about this real quick. I was darker as a child. I forgot the skin disease that Michael Jackson had that made his skin lighter, but I also have that. At which my skin made me really lighter. I'm like, and when I was a baby, no, I'm dark. Like, no. And I've always been outside. I've always been an outside person. I just have that skin issue, along with eczema as a child too, that made my skin lighter. But anyway, we all put our heads down on the table, and the girl pointed at me because I fit the skin tone. You know, when the girl was like, I would say she was in like first or second grade, so of course she doesn't know the difference between recognitions of people at that time. And even I knew I didn't do it, and people in the classroom knew I didn't do it too, because I didn't go to the bathroom all day. Like in the way my school system worked, is we would move in pods to each different subject. So it was, everyone knew it wasn't me, but they called on me, and Mr. Lively. I didn't mean to call out the principal's name. My goodness. But the principal looks at me and goes, "Come with me." And I said, "I didn't do anything." The teacher looked at me and said, "Shut up, we all know you did it." And I was like, "What?" Like, okay, sure. And I went up to the office, and Mr. Lively looked at me, and I was sitting there crying, and I was looking at him like, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to the bathroom all day. You can ask anyone in the classroom. I didn't go. And he looked at me and said, "We're going to get to the bottom of it. Don't worry." He looked on the camera system. It was not me. Duh. Anyway, he looked at the camera system, and he brought me into his office and said, "I know it wasn't you. We looked on the camera system. It wasn't you. You just have this same skin color as a few other students here, and people have a hard time picking out who's who." He explained to me what racism was at a young age, and he said, "We're going to talk to the teacher that called you out like that, because that was incorrect of her." She got pink slipped after that happened, actually, because no teacher should fucking do that to anyone. But all throughout elementary school, I was beat down with race issues. And in fifth grade, it kind of hit me that I wasn't into the female. You know, I wasn't into females. I like men. Oops. Like, I found out my life pretty early on. Some people made fun of me for trauma, like the rape trauma that I had. Said, "Oh, you just like men because you were raped as a child." It's like, no. Like, even now, I'm healed from that. It's my preference. Like, why are you trying to make me seem weird? And like, you're all being, people were just out of pocket. But in middle school, I was made fun of for, being gay. I wore like skinny jeans. I was very, emo, gothic, scenic kid, all like mashed up somehow in middle school. I had a whole like My Little Pony phase. I was just very much into like childlike stuff, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really get to live a childhood. I forgot to mention this because my parents, when I was adopted, were in their 60s, and I was told to take care of my parents from a young age. It was like my responsibility to make sure that they were okay, even if it wasn't pressed onto me. I felt like it was, and I spent a lot of my childhood worrying about my parents dying at a young age because they had a lot of health complications. My sisters, I was the youngest of my sisters. Obviously, they were like in their 30s, 40s. Their sons, which were my nephews and nieces, because I was an uncle at a fucking young age, were older than me as well. So I didn't have anyone to relate to. My nephews and nieces were like in middle school, going into high school when I was in elementary school. So I didn't have any connection with them that much at all. We still hung out and played a lot, but it was like a 17-year-old trying to fuck or like play around with a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. Just didn't really match up that well. A lot of issues going into that. I was very much of alone as a childhood as well. I didn't have that many friends. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, but I also I enjoyed living out in the middle of nowhere. It was silent. It was fun. I liked the woods anyway, and stuff like that. So it didn't really bother me. But having a lack of friends did wear on me at certain points as a child. It definitely made it harder for me to talk to people, but it also made me more aware of who I was at that time. Now, before I jump into it fully, in middle school, right in 6th grade happened, so I was like maybe 10, 11, 9. I was becoming aware of my spiritual gifts heavily. I distinctly remember walking into the living room. My dad was watching Matilda, and me and my dad watched Matilda together. And I looked at my dad, and I said, "Dad, I want to be like her when I grow up." You know how that whole movie went with the girl with their psychic abilities and shit, telekinesis and all that fun shit. We also watched Poltergeist. Poltergeist was a fun one. We watched The Exorcism. Just a lot of like stuff of that nature to get me aware of what my gifts were. My dad was also part of the army. I think he was part of the Masons at one point, but kept it hush hush, so I wouldn't know. But I know that he probably was because his brother was. That's just how things of that nature go. But he was trying to make it very aware to me of my gifts, and I very much was enthralled by it. We used to live I used to live next to like a little family cemetery too. I literally had the whole, like, it was so weird. I had a whole Appalachian like spiritual awakening journey when I was like between the ages of like 9 to 15, well 14 really. I talked to ghosts. I had a Ouija board. But around this time, I was into the dark arts. So in middle school, I was figuring out how to hex people, figuring out how to like put curses on people, voodoo dolls, makeshift shit like that, summoning entities, all the 9 yards. But I never would do those acts on people. There were, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was like a few times in middle school where I thought about, doing it to someone, but it was like, I'm not gonna get their hair, I'm not gonna take a photo of them, that's fucking weird. Like, I knew not to do that. But I got very well versed in the dark arts. I had so many encounters, dude. I had an encounter with a mimic, with one of my friends. I had a ghost girl that lived in my house for a minute that we became very well versed and talked a lot together. Her father did not like me. Her father very much made my life a living hell, but the daughter was cool, so we hung out and talked a lot. And if y'all know what I mean by like, not even with the Ouija board, I'm talking about apparition up and like just chilling and shit. And I'd tell people this all the time. Like, I would go to the graveyard. It was like a family-owned graveyard. I would go there. I would ask for permission to go in the graveyard. And I'd sit there. I'd even meditate there as a child too. I'd go there at night, at like around like 11, 12. The best hour is 12. And I'd go there and talk and like just chill with the ghosts. I just did a lot of shit in the middle school. Like, people knew that I was like weird, like, oh, you're gay, so you're weird, and oh, you like feminine things and you're weird, and oh, you like My Little Pony, so you're weird. But they didn't know I was into like cursing and hexing people. Now that also came back on me because that wasn't supposed to be my life path. I was just supposed to learn that and stuff. I even had like a hellhound as a child. Like I played around with the hellhound. That shit was fun. Like I did it all, mama. I had a fun dark magic childhood, but because I never hurt anyone with it, I was just very exploring the sides. I made a lot of potions as a child. I did a lot of Appalachian shit. Like cryptids, I had a bunch of cryptid moments. Shadow people were all around me as a child, and that shit didn't bother me. Like I was just up in the clouds with that shit. It was fun. I remember even playing like, I want to say peekaboo, but it was like hide and seek almost, with um, with a shadow person, and that was funny as fuck. That was a fun memory of mine. But I would do all sorts of like the midnight game and that one hide and seek where you summon the entity to chase you around your house and you have like these salt circles that you have to sit in. I did that. Like I was fucking. Long story short, I didn't know the importance of closing certain rituals out, and that made me become depressed. From sixth to seventh grade, going into seventh grade, I became depressed. And I had some friends, but I lost a lot of them going seventh to eighth grade as well, because of all that shit that I was doing. I became extremely suicidal around that time. My sister's scene. Now this is the part where it gets different. My sister and her son, which I called him my cousin, but he's technically my nephew. We were called cousins to make us closer together. You understand, if you understand, because he was also into the occult and witchy things, but he stayed more on the dark side always. But I became very well versed in the dark. In fact, I even started having Egyptian artifacts in my room. I had like an Anubis statue. I had one of the emerald tablets written out the rules on a shelf. Like I was getting into my Egyptian heritage, but I also had a mirror in front of my bed that was used as a portal between the schooling years of sixth grade to eighth grade, and a lot of my torment and depression came from that time. Which was a whole issue. Because I wasn't aware. That was the one thing I wasn't aware of as a child was mirrors, and that fucked me up. Because that shit ruined my life. We got rid of the mirror. I ended up painting my whole room black because of that shit. And if y'all know about that, then y'all know about that. Don't ever do that. That's bad. All right, that's a portal. That is a whole ass portal that you're sitting in. If you do that, don't. Okay, I'm telling you. And I lived a really shitty, depressed life. I attempted suicide multiple times because of that. I even, God, I checked myself into a mental hospital though, a lot. I lost all faith in God at this point as well. I didn't believe in God anymore. I was like praising the devil at eighth grade. That's how quick my life like clicked. In eighth grade, I was very much into like just praising, him down below and all this sorts of shit. And I checked myself into a lot of rehabs. Now, the first time I went to a rehab, I met this one kid. I'm not gonna name his name, but he was also into the cult. But he got possessed in the facility. Ended up tossing chairs up and stacking them up in like sigilistic ways. It was a whole fucking thing. But we became friends around that time, and I split away. After that rehab, I got better. I then just suffered from just suicidal thoughts and depression. I stepped away from spirituality and religion as a whole because it got too real too quick. Basically, I wasn't ready for all that shit. But I was very much saved I didn't really have a belief in God, but I was dipping in my spiritual journey where I just knew that I had these gifts. And then high school kicked in. And during the time of high school, I was definitely hexed. One of my spiritual gifts that I had, I would see letters and numbers, and like I would visualize letters and words and numbers and sequences all the time. But they started to get encrusted with red, and I was sent to the doctors, and they put me on medicine to erase that from me. So I no longer can see like the letters and shit anymore. I used to be a fucking crazy seer when I was a child. I would lucid dream. I forgot to mention that. I would lucid dream all the time too. I used to have dreams of a bunch of marbles falling down. Before I would even hit the dream state, it was a bunch of marbles that would go into this cup. And then I would zoom in on one of the marbles, and that would be me in my dream, and I would fall into the cup. It was a whole thing. But I had a lot of dreams. I learned how to astrally project. I learned how to like fly in the realms. I learned all sorts of things. Fuck, I'm bad at storytelling, but it's also as real as it's gonna get, honey. When I was 15, I opened up my third eye. No. I was younger than that. I had to do more work on my okay. When I was 10, I opened my third eye. I was in Florida with my family, and they left me alone in the hotel room. And I don't remember, I tell this every time, but I don't remember if it was like, it was like an app, a game I had on my phone. I don't remember if someone was telling me about it in the chat of that game or what, but it just, the phrase third eye came to my attention, and I was like, what the fuck is a third eye? So I look it up, and I started doing a meditation on my third eye, and I awakened my third eye. And that shit was crazy. I literally remember opening my eyes and just not remembering what happened, but just remembering that everything was different. Like, I seen colors brighter, I felt different. And I think that's also led to the depression as well, as not being able to understand what I did because I didn't know what a third eye was. But I opened my third eye at a young age, and then I went back to open it again when I was 15. And that really busted open my spiritual gifts of like being a seer, of telepathic speaking. There we go. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, you name it, mama. All the clairs. I was just fucking mystic at that age. But I ended up, where are we at? Where are we going? Because I tell story. I have ADHD. Storytelling is the best. But no, yeah, my sister and their cousin, they were very much into witchy stuff too. It was like playing in my face almost with it though. They were Christian, but they don't really follow much of the Christian values. But I ended up, throughout the summer of middle school and high school, I ended up fixing myself. I just was still into the dark arts. I felt, instead of being like, oh, dark, I went and discovered a bunch of religions and learning all that, and that was fun. But I was also, in high school, this is the fun part, I found out that I didn't like being a guy. I didn't like being a boy. So I was like, fuck it, I'll be trans. I didn't know if that, I'd say around the time when I was in high school, there were more people of my age group being more comfortable with being trans and being open about their identity. And I very much took that on for me. I'm not gonna lie, I did definitely have a lot of lust magic experiments in high school. Learned that out the hard way. It do work, but don't do it. It ain't worth it, honey. And it wasn't like, oh, be in a relationship with me. It was, no, let me get my quick fix and bounce. I was like that in high school. We all have a past. Um, but I got really into like lust spells and like um, more into the occult. I very much. That's when I started learning how to make my own sigils. I remember looking up a site, and I had that site bookmarked, and now that site doesn't exist anymore, which sucks. But I used to go to it all the time and learn how to do sigils and shit. Um, I got big into cursing, hexing, again, but not doing it towards anyone. Just understanding the process of those things and like rocks. I was into rocks and crystals, and I'd collect rocks and crystals all the time. Fossils as well. I delved heavily back into the Egyptian mindset around high school, um, and I was under a lot of black magic attacks around that time. I ended up finding out. I ended up finally learning some sort of lesson that allowed me to manifest the life that I wanted. And I think that was the scariest part for me to realize, is because I had a group of friends in high school. A group of friends, huge quotation marks. I didn't really fit in with anyone. I was a floater. I went to every group. Everyone liked and hated me at the same time. It was whatever. I didn't give a shit. But there was a group of friends, and I remember meeting them. And I told one of them that everyone in that group was an asshole to me, and I didn't like that. It was like I told them that y'all were being assholes. I don't like y'all no more, and I left. Left graduation, all that stuff. I graduated. I was happy. I didn't think I was gonna graduate. While in high school, I went to college, community college, for audio engineering, and got my audio engineering degree 2 years after that, which was fun. I didn't do anything with it. I mean, the only reason I had to do that is because it was a competition between me and my cousin. It was like, my cousin went to college. He was a year older than me, but he dropped out. And then I went to college, and then I graduated. And it was like a whole thing. Like, it's just, my sister definitely had put some sort of curse or hex over my life because I outshined her son. And her son was supposed to be who I was, but dark. And because I wasn't dark, and I was a true speaker, and I seen through lies and bullshit, they hated that. And then the hardest part about that was my mom passing away in 2019. It was such a shock. Like, family came down from all over to go see us, and I was coming out of my depression, like, ever so slightly. I'm fully out of it now, but around 2019, I was coming out of my depression, and I was talking to family, and I was being open. My family didn't like me. They thought that I was an asshole. They judged me. They made me feel very not a part of the family because, they're all white. I'm black. I'm adopted. There was another adopted sister, and it was just a whole weird thing where I was just an issue. So I just kind of gave up on talking to the family completely. I just said, fuck it, I don't care. Which is another reason why I was depressed. I had to grow up without any friends, needing to take care of my adopted parents who were older than me, not really having a childhood, stressing out a lot, and dealing with jealous and envious family members because I got to do things that they couldn't do as a child, and they hated that I got to do those things. They said that I wasn't as grateful as I needed to be, which is just their opinion over my life, which is dog shit. Shit. Yeah, in 2019, family came down from all over, and my mom is diabetic, and she forgot to take her shot, and she didn't feel good. And she was like, I feel like my sugar's high, and she ordered a coffee, and I looked at her, and I was like, if you don't feel good, why are you going to drink a coffee? You shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea. And she looked at me and said, you're telling me. Drank it anyway. And I was like, okay. We were going to go out and go to a nature resort. And then my mom said she didn't feel good. We took her back home to take the sugar. And when she got home, went to diabetic shock. And that was horrible. It's still kind of hard to talk about a little bit because it was such a vivid experience. I literally I watched my mom die in front of me, and my family, I hung out with only the external family because they were the only ones that wanted me around. And then while my mom was dying, my sister was questioning me about my childhood with her and asking why I didn't take care of her and what I was doing, and it was just very traumatic on me. Like, it wasn't my fault that she passed away. I did my best to take care of her. I had my own things going on, and it was just a whole mess. One of my sisters, I have two sisters, the adopted one lived next door to us but never came up and checked on her. But it was my fault because I lived there. It was a whole kerfuffle, like, not putting blame on anyone else or anything either, but it's just like there are so many moving parts that they all got pushed on me because I was the one that was depressed and I wasn't doing something, even though I was helping them with medicine and like checking up on them, making sure they were okay. They were like, as a child, I even heard my dad throw up as a child, and I got scared and woke up my mom and was like, I think Dad's throwing up, because I didn't know what was going on. And like anytime those things happened, like with my mom making a weird noise or my dad making a weird noise, because I slept in between their rooms, we have very thin walls, so I could hear, I would wake up the other one and be like, there's something going on, let's go, like I don't want to be by myself, that energy, I just, you know what I mean, like I was very protective of them, but it never was enough because apparently it's my fault. It's a whole kerfuffle. But regardless, she ended up passing away. And there was a preacher. I posted about it on Facebook, and then a preacher was messaging me about it. And my family didn't like the preacher. After my mom died, my sister looked at me. Not the adopted one, the other one. She looked at me and said, "Are you going to go tell the preacher that mom passed away?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And I messaged him. And she got pissed off at me for it. Lord belongs to her. And it was a whole thing where it's like, don't tell them ever again about anything. We don't like them coming to here and saying stuff on about mom. And I was just like, it's not my fault. He messaged me first, and then y'all told me to message him back, and then like I was just being scapegoated for a bunch of dog shit, basically. It was horrible. But I got out of my depression in 2020 fully. I met up with a few of my online friends, and that helped me get out of my shell, stop being shy, so reserved, understanding what it was like to actually have friends. These online friends of mine have been the best of the best. We've been like this, and I'm grateful to have them. You know, we're all living different lives, and we're all busy doing our own things, but like they've been through me throughout all my life shit. I forgot to mention this, but mentioning them got me to this. I got the cops called on me a lot as a child too. In therapy, they told me that if I needed to walk away from an argument, to walk away and cool off, and I would walk away a lot because I didn't want to deal with an argument because I had anger issues as a child, and I would get the cops called on me for walking away, and that was like a whole thing that I had to go through. I never ran away from home, but I was told to stay away from home a lot, and never to come back. I was threatened to be put up again for adoption before I hit 18, and to be put in other people's care as well, and that fucked me up. It was just a whole thing with like not really feeling like I had a family, always feeling very disposable. Friendships was like that, family life was like that, love life was like that too, and just shitty all around. But I healed from it all, which is, well, not all the way, but you know, I've done the work to not be affected by the past, by those situations. And 2021 rolled around, and my sister ended up buying the house that my dad had without me knowing, and then said, "You have a week to leave." And I told them, we were talking, I was like, this isn't fair, like I didn't know they are buying the house, like this is stupid, like you need to tell me what's going on. And they said, "You have a week to leave." And I said, "No, you can't do that, like no, like I didn't even know this was happening, you can't give me a week." And her husband goes, no, but we're only doing this because we love you. And I said, no, you don't love me because you never showed me love at all growing up. Um, and I told them how it was. And they got pissed off and said, this is exactly why we didn't tell you in the first place. And I was like, because why? It was a whole argument, and they got upset with me. I got upset with them. A week passes. God sent someone to me to help me get off my feet, and I moved in with them. And they, I don't know, unbeknownst to them or not, it felt like it was on purpose. But anyway, we moved in. We had another roommate who was heavily on like drugs and meth, and they were stealing our objects and I had a whole knife collection that was stolen by them. They moved out. We told them not to come back. Me and the person that I met up with, we moved to a different location. And at that point, that's when my spiritual journey fully kicked in. I started getting very spiritual. I started finding out that my medium abilities started kicking in more. I started seeing dead people, talking to them, interacting with them more. And I was like, okay, shit, this is a whole thing. So I got used to that. And then when that cycle ended where I was at, I met the same people from the high school that came in, and they're like, hey, I was really bad on drugs at this time too. Like, I was just fucking all over the place. I forgot to mention that. But they came over and said, hey, do you want to do this drug? And I was like, sure, like, I got it. Let's come over, we hang out. We haven't hung out in a while. It was shrooms, it was fine. And we did shrooms together for the first time. It was his first time, and I just did them occasionally. I did a lot of meditation with shrooms at that time. I didn't use them as a party drug. I very much would take them and then be by myself and meditate and just get all the information I needed. I'm not like a partier. I never was. But we did that, and I ended up wanting to move in with him and the other high school friend of mine, who was also trans at the time. And then they came over. We all did shrooms, and we ended up staying up all night and watching fucking Tim and Eric Awesome Show, which was fucking hilarious. I think that was the best way to bond with people. We all had like Adult Swim childhood, so we just watched that, and that was pretty fun. I ended up moving in with them, but a week before I did, the person that I was moving away from ended up making a song screaming that how much they hated me, how I should die, how I needed to go to hell. And that was a horrifying experience to witness. Very much being hexed and cursed. And very close proximity was horrifying, but I managed to get through it, and it was whatever. I also found out that my clairaudience was getting a lot better too. I could hear things that I wasn't supposed to hear. I would hear people like have sex around me when I shouldn't have heard it, and I would tell them to stop, and then I would get in trouble because it's like, oh, why are you stalking us? But I wasn't. I was in my room trying to sleep type energy. I just heard it. I'm clairaudient. You can't get mad at me. Like, but I'm moving with these friends, and the energy's off, really bad off. Like, it's scary. We had fun though. We had really good fun times. I got to reunite with them and talk, and everyone was kind of on the same level of like just down in the dumps, and I was trying to lift up and heal. And I even announced to those two people that I wanted to heal, and the owner of the place said, this is perfect, this is a healing home, this is how I want it to be. And I started to heal. One of the friends didn't like that I was healing and started giving me shade, and I knew that they were giving me shade, so I kept calling them out on it, and they got uncomfortable and left me like alone completely while living in the same house as well. And I was like, it was weird, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? And I started getting messages from my guides and angels, and they're like, listen, get into tarot. I bought a tarot deck in 2021. Here, I'll show you it. Y'all already know which one it is, I think, but for the ones that don't. Well, come here. Don't be shy. What's this one? This is my very first tarot deck. It's been with me for 4 years. It has a lot of energy on it. I love it to death. But every time I would try and get into tarot, I would be stopped, for obvious reasons. But yeah, this is my first deck. I don't remember what it's called. It's in Portuguese. I bought it off of some site that I forgot. I think it's a Akeda Tarot, Acida Tarot, something like that. But I bought it off of there. It just has like a whole bunch of tarot decks from all over the place. It's the place to go. I was led there. But yeah, this deck has been with me forever, and I love it. And it's what I use to learn tarot. So while I was in that place, the final straw happened. We all got back together. My dad ended up wrecking his car after visiting me outside of their house, which really had me shaken up and scared. But the other high school friend that I was with thought it was funny that he wrecked and was laughing about it a lot. And I was sitting there and he was like laughing about that. And our other roommate just got back from Texas from seeing their family. And we were just trying to talk to them. And it was just, I was getting kind of upset that every time that I would try to talk to the other roommate, the one that was being a meanie head to me, would cut me off and drag the attention towards them. And we were sitting there smoking just weed, and it hit me. It like I heard an angel, like I think it was Michael actually. I'm not even gonna lie. I know it was Michael. I'm not even gonna lie about it. It was Michael for sure. I heard him scream like, "It's now or never. Do it." And I said, "You know what? I don't like what you're doing. You're still being mean to me. I'm trying. I've done my part. You haven't done anything at all. Can you be a better friend to me and stop cutting me off when I'm trying to talk to someone?" It was a whole thing. I didn't get mad. Being a Libra, I'm very blunt and to the point. He was an Aquarius. The other person was a Libra. Not a very balanced Libra. But the Aquarius was a narcissist. So they looked at me and said, "You're telling me something that I can't do at all." And I said, "Then don't talk to me at all then." And I got up and I left and sat in my room. And the next day, the other roommate comes down and goes, "You need to leave. You can't stay here anymore, yada, yada, yada." And I was like, "Okay." And they said, "You attacked the other roommate." And I said, "No, I didn't attack anyone." And, you know, they put a whole show on. I was like, "Okay, so maybe I attacked them. My bad. I didn't mean to, but I'm trying to tell y'all that he needs to do better, and y'all know that he's not doing good and being nice to me and being a good friend, but when I stand up for myself, it's an issue." They didn't want me to stand up for myself. It's the whole lesson I need to learn there. But Michael brought me to this situation where I'm at now. It was supposed to be like another soul family thing. I felt like they were my soul family at the start, and it was very good and beautiful. But things started taking a drift. One day, one of the people in this situation walked to me and said, "I'm the evil one, you know that, right?" And I looked at them, I said, "Yeah, I know." I started doing a lot more tarot. I was just doing my own thing. We moved in on the, so I'm trying to get on, I was trying to get on SSI at the time, and we moved in. I moved in with this person on the fact that when I get SSI, I would pay them back, and everything would be smooth. And he agreed to it. He said it was a good idea. I agreed to it. We both wanted to move anyway. We just kind of did. We made it pride. It was a whole divine union, bringing brought together. And from my understanding, it was supposed to be a divine masculine, divine feminine relationship, which is cool and fine. I was very much needing to learn the lesson of love, and I was getting it from them. I got sucked into a poly relationship, and I didn't like it, so I bounced out. And when I bounced out, stuff started falling downhill. The main masculine of mine and the distorted feminine that was in the relationship started doing black magic on me. And I knew what they were doing intuitively. Like, my gifts were off the charts at that point. Like, I knew what was going on, and I said, "I'm under a black magic attack." And then one day I called out the user and said, "You need to stop doing attacks on me." And they, "Oh, I'm not doing attacks on you. Oh, ooh, like, fake crying about it to my face, and I said, sorry for blaming you then, like yada yada this, crocodile tear, go away. And after that, the attacks ramped up even more. I learned how to defend myself from a lot of the attacks that they were sending my way. Very much started getting onto my tarot joint, and in October of last year is when I started uploading videos, getting heavier into tarot and the occult, witchcraft, everything as a whole. And the attacks got worse and worse. By the time November hit, they were turning off the Wi-Fi ever so often. They didn't want me reading on their energy. I was in a secret competition. They had like a tarot business that they were trying to run. I had my own. I wasn't paying attention to them, but they were trying to copy me, and they still are trying to copy me, but they're not doing a very good job of what they're doing. I don't focus on that, and I don't really focus on them at all. I'm kind of doing my own thing, obviously, but they would turn off the internet. They would turn off the lights in my room all the time, where they turned off the internet completely from me, which was supposed to shut me off, and I wasn't supposed to do anything. I came to the front office and was like, hey, I work from home, I do tarot stuff, can I use the internet here? And they said sure. So I started using their internet here. Y'all can look back and literally see that timeline playing out. I used to do videos at my house, like all around nature and stuff. It was like an all over thing. And then I started doing videos like strictly in the sauna for a long time. And then I moved to the gym, and the gym was too noisy, so I went back to the sauna. Because it was just like a good place to record, and I've always felt called to just record in there anyway. No one used the sauna. You can even check the videos. No one in December used the sauna at all. Hardly anyone at all used it. All the videos I would record. But then, all of a sudden, they found out, they started stalking my YouTube. They found out that I was using the sauna. So they started sending people to go to the sauna more. Say, how use the sauna more. Yada this, yada that. So more people started using the sauna. So, it was wintertime, it was whatever. I ended up not having food a lot. I forgot to mention this. Whole thing. My ADHD has gotten me bad. I should have written all this out, but I just said I was going to wing it. But when I was living with the high school friends, I was locked in the basement, because I lived in their basement. I was locked in their basement for 2 months without food or water. I went to go with a friend to escape from the negative energy. They went down in the basement and stole commodities that my dad gave me. It was like milk that I had. It was like some food as well. They stole that and then went back up. But before I was locked down there, they went on a camping trip, and I was going upstairs and getting food because I was like, fuck you all, I'm not gonna starve. I'm still here. Y'all can't starve me. Human rights, like, get off my ass. So I started eating food. I'm pretty sure they laced they had donuts up there. I'm pretty sure they were laced with something, because one of them didn't taste right, but I was fine, and I still ate them. I ate like most of them, and they didn't like that, so then I got locked in the basement, which was weird. I was a whole like extremity. And then one day they came down to talk to me. That's what it was. That's what I've been freaking to tell. My full-on like ascension, where I learned the lesson fully of like forgiveness and loving myself and stuff like that. In the last living situation, the owner came down and to talk to me from afar. They stood at a distance. They were obviously doing hexes and curses on me, and they realized it wasn't working. And I was talking to them, and I was like, listen, like, I know what you're doing. It's not cool. I'm sorry that you feel like I'm attacking people, but I haven't done anything wrong. I love all of you all. I forgive all of you all for what you're doing, but it's not right that you're doing this to me. You're doing it because of some childhood wounds that you haven't healed. And I was crying, and they were crying, and I was like, do you want a hug? And they actively like went out to go walk towards me, and they said, no, I don't, and like stood their ground. And around that time, the other roommate got up and walked above the stairs where the doors of the stair was to come downstairs, and stood there to listen into the conversation. I don't know if they thought that they were slick or not, but I knew they were up there. I just didn't feel called to mention it because it wasn't important. What was important is me getting this healing message out to the owner of the house, letting them know that you are listening to a narcissist. And I said, you all are like being mean to me for no reason. I don't know why. I said, I wish you all healing. I wish you the best, and I love you all a lot. But healing is not always fun. And they looked at me and they said, yeah, I know it's not. And I just kept talking and getting deeper about like the issues of their problems, and they started crying more, and they said, I'm gonna go. And they were gonna go walk upstairs and exit the door, and they realized when they turned around that door was locked and they couldn't open it from the inside. And they turned around with their head down and walked outside. And I was just like, okay, like I got my point across, I'm good. And I was fine. I was watching tarot. Mama, I had Kev, and I had Intuitive Goddess, Mama. I had Bella, I had Empress Bella and Kev. They got me through that situation, honey. If I didn't find them, I would have been somewhere else. Let me just be honest. So they got all the props for me being here today, doing what I'm doing. Especially Kev. Kev kept me tight, honey. Like, Intuitive Goddess was an inspiration because of all her decks, but Kev made me, like, I was laughing my ass off. I didn't eat for like 2 weeks straight, and I was sitting down there laughing my ass off at Kev videos. And that shit got, like, laughter is the best medicine. I don't care who the fuck you are. Like, that shit got me through. And we moved here, and I did my tarot shit, and we're here now. I'm sitting at like 12K, almost 12.5K with y'all. Because I didn't give up, and I'm healing still, and it's like God has blessed me more than I could ever imagine with anything, and I'm glad that I'm glad that I was able to heal so I could be in this position, because I should have been dead, I should have been somewhere else, I shouldn't be here, but I'm here, and I love all y'all to the moon and back. I know this story is kind of like shaky. I haven't gone into a lot of details, but it's just like ADHD storytelling, and I wanted to get it out. Not really as soon as possible, but I wanted to get it out because I owe it to you all. I love transparency, and though my story might not be as severe as your all's story, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. We're all here on this healing journey together. And it's important to just know that we all come from somewhere rough, and a lot of us weren't supposed to make it where we were. Don't give up on your dreams and keep pushing forward always, because God's got your back. Always. I would not be here without like God or Michael. Which is why I always tell everyone, Michael is definitely part of the tribe. Michael saved me multiple times. Oh my God, thank you. I forgot to mention this too. They did a ritual. The people here did a ritual on me on Halloween, where my heart had to be as light as a feather for me to survive. That's what I was told. And I ended up having a one-on-one encounter with Baphomet, who led me to Anubis, and to tell y'all just slightly, y'all can believe it, y'all don't have to, it's up to you. I know what happened to me, I know what's happening in my life, but I ended up inhabiting a little bit of Anubis throughout that transition. My heart was as light as a feather when they did that. I wasn't held back by any sort of pain, by my divine masculine being stolen from me. I was fine, I was healed, and Anubis came down to me, and I've done a lot of ritual work with Anubis side by side, including letting him enter my vessel and act out through me. And that's also helped my medium abilities a lot. I talk, like, I do rituals at random times, at random places. I don't need anything to indice them. It's just I call upon and it happens. I've got like a very strong connection to Anubis. His soul resides within my body as a part of me because of what happened. and due to that awakening that I had. And around that time as well, I started getting a lot more of my knowledge in. But I found out about the whole empath narcissist paradigm and how that affects the earth. And I even made a video about that a while back on my channel. And you can even see the change of like my knowledge on things throughout the early stages of my channel, because after that incident happened, it actually boosted me up. They want to take credit for it. They can't really, because they didn't do anything other than try and kill me. But yeah, we survived, and we got a little bit of Anubis in us. We got Michael on us. We're just swimming in life. But yeah, that's kind of just like the parts of the story that I can get out as clearly as possible. I know it's a lot to listen to, but I love all of y'all to the moon and back. I really do. I even like it's just I love what I do mainly, and I love that everyone wants to heal. I've always been someone that's wanted to heal. I never thought it was fair about all the abuse I went through. I didn't mention a lot of it. I just don't know why, but like I was beat with the metal belt. I was hit a lot. God, it was horrible. I was beat in 5th grade. I don't know why I'm mentioning this now, but in 5th grade, I forgot my locker combination at a parent-teacher conference, and my dad took me into the front office that had a glass panel that you could see through, and beat me there for 30 minutes straight until someone got the cops involved, and then I was blamed for forgetting my locker combination. So I've just gone through a lot of abuse and dog shit in my life, but mama, we healed through that shit. There's no need to be like ashamed of it. It's built who I am. I'm a tough cookie to crack. Like shit, I've gone through shit. It's important to heal from it, because if you don't, then you just kind of feel like your life's shitty. So mama, keep on the healing journey. I love you all to the moon and back. But yeah, I thank you all so much for the support. I'm not really sure how to tell these types of stories anyway, mainly because I just tell stories very sporadically. Y'all who get it will get it. Y'all who don't, sorry. But I love y'all to the moon and back, and I'll see you all later.